Hi, welcome to Right to Top. I'm Adam. In today's video, I want to talk to you about a particular set of words called extreme words. Sometimes they're called absolute words. Now, these words are very easy words, everyday words that you know. You understand them, you've seen them a million times before, but a lot of people don't pay enough attention to these words. Now, what you need to understand is that the test makers, IELTS, TOEFL, and other tests as well, I'm sure, but especially these two tests. The test makers put these words into the reading section and into the writing section on purpose. They have a very clear intention to see if you notice these words and if you can address these words, okay? So before I even can say any more, let's look at what these words are so you know what I'm talking about. So they're called extreme words because they are at the extreme of a span or a spectrum, right? Always, never. Always means all the time. Never means at no time, right? So these are the two extremes of time when we're talking about time or frequency, etc. That's why they're also called absolute words. There's no movement beyond these words on either direction. Always, you can't have more time and you can't have less time. It's all the time. So these are called extreme words. Now, the words you need to pay attention to are always, never, only, all, every, none, have to, must, need to, alone, impossible, no one, everybody, no, and best, most, etc. Any superlative word is an extreme word because best means you're at the top of all the other options or other things, right? It means there's no room to move up or down. You can't go higher, and if you're the best, you can't go lower. So all of these are extreme words. And again, you know these words. These are easy, everyday words, but they have specific functions in the test, especially the reading and writing section. And we're going to look at how and why you should pay attention to them. Now, a lot of people also don't recognize that be verbs are actually extreme words. They don't seem to be, but you have to pay attention to a sentence that uses a be verb. A be verb states a fact. Now, as soon as you have a be verb, and especially in the simple present, but in any tense, you're stating a fact. So let's look at these two sentences. Global warming is humanity's greatest danger. So when you write this sentence, you're stating a fact. In my opinion, global warming is humanity's greatest danger. When you add that little expression, in my opinion, then it's a fact to you. It's your opinion, but it's not necessarily true to everybody. Now, when you state a fact, you should be able to back it up. You should be able to support it with other facts, with data, for example. So be careful about using be verbs without qualifying them as your opinion or supporting them with other facts. Now, these are the words they're going to test you on in the reading and the writing section, the extreme words. What you're going to find in the reading passage or what you should use in your writing are the synonyms. And these are some examples. Always, all the time, at all times. Never, at no time, at no point. That's for frequency, for example. From then on. So you have a starting point and then it continues always from that starting point. From that point onwards, same thing. Uninterrupted means there's no break in the frequency. Only, sole. Uncontested means there's nothing else that could be whatever the context is making it to be. Consistent means it keeps going the same way, in the same pattern without break. Continuous, constant. So these are all synonyms. So these are the words you're going to have to match, okay? Now, let's look at some not extreme words that people sometimes misunderstand. Always means always. Almost always means not always. So you have to be very careful with these qualifiers, they're called, especially the ones in the bottom, but these are also qualifiers. But when you say almost or nearly everybody agreed. Does that mean that 100% of the people agreed? No. Maybe 99%, maybe 98, maybe 97, but not 100. Hardly ever does not mean never. It means almost never. Hardly any, hardly anyone, etc., hardly anything. Rarely, seldom, inconsistently, intermittently, sporadic. All of these means that it's not constant. It's not constant occurrence of something. You have to pay attention to those. Now, I spoke about the be verbs, means you're stating a fact. If you don't want to state a fact, but you want to say that something looks like a fact, say it appears to be correct, or it seems to be. So he is nice. If you say about a person, he is nice, well, why do you think he's nice? Or why is he nice? Give me some examples to prove that fact. But if you say he appears to be nice, means that that's the impression you have, but maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. You are not committing to a factual statement. Seems, might be, same words. In your writing, try to use these words, seems to be, more than is. Because if you're using is, be prepared to back it up. If you're saying seems, then you're just stating an opinion. Nobody can argue with you. Okay? Very important to remember that. And qualifiers, always pay attention. Always, except for that one time when it didn't happen, or save for, or not including the time, the person, etc. So except for lets you take the extreme word and make it not extreme by giving an example of when it wasn't true or a fact, etc. So now we're going to look at some examples. In the reading, so why are these words important in the reading? Because reading is mostly paraphrasing. You're going to be given a set of questions, and then you're going to be given the passage. They want to see that you can match ideas that are written in different ways, but have the same meaning, essentially, right? That's what paraphrasing is. And that's what they're testing you on, okay? They're not testing you on knowledge. They're not testing you on even comprehension. They're specifically testing your ability to recognize paraphrasing, okay? So here's a paragraph. I'm just going to read it very quickly for you. Satellites can also be designed. So the word also tells you that this is a paragraph within a longer passage. We're talking about satellites. Satellites can also be designed with military applications in mind. For example, reconnaissance satellites can spy on foreign nations to prepare for and assess their military capabilities, gauge preparations for missile launches, follow troop movements, and much more. Some satellites can even be weaponized, that is, equipped with warheads to be remotely launched against ground targets. The US has been using these satellites strategically since the 1950s, and though the technology at that time allowed for only sporadic and geographically limited surveillance, technological advances now allow the military establishment to keep an eye on every inch of the planet on a 24-hour basis. So there's your passage, and now you're going to have to refer the question to some information within this little paragraph, okay? So we're going to look at TOEFL, we're going to look at IELTS separately and see how this will play out. Okay, but before I go on, just don't be shy. If there are words here that you don't know, some new words for you, look them up in the dictionary, like reconnaissance, surveillance, gauge, troops. Look them all up, and then you can go on to the question if you want, or just follow me and we'll see what happens. So let's look at TOEFL. So one of the question types you might see is which of the following sentences is not true. They'll tell you, look at paragraph 3, and then say which of the following is not true. From the 50s onward, the US government has been able to look at every part of the world at all times. Now, is this true? Well, let's analyze the different pieces. From the 50s onward means starting in the 1950s and continuing onward until today. Basically, this means always. The US government has been able to look at every part of the world at all times. But if we look at the actual passage and we look at the last sentence there, and though technology at that time allowed for only sporadic and geographically limited surveillance, meaning that in the 50s, they couldn't look everywhere all the time. They could look sometimes at some places. Today, with the advancements in technology, they can look everywhere all the time. But in the 50s, they couldn't do that. So, A, automatically you should understand is not true. There's your answer. You can move on. But you should probably go through B, C, and D, make sure that they are in fact true, make sure there's nothing better. But the key here is from the 50s onward. That's your extreme word that you have to be careful about. Cutting-edge technology has presented military forces with the capacity to maintain constant global surveillance. Constant, 24-hour basis. Global, every inch of the planet. Surveillance, watching. So that's true. Cutting-edge technology, technological advancements. Satellites allow the military to prepare for confrontations by observing the enemy soldiers, setting up bases, and preparing launch pads. So they can prepare for and assess military movements, missile launch preparations, troop movements. Troops, soldiers. So C is true. Satellites themselves can be armed, weaponized, and used in battles to strike enemy positions, ground targets. B, C, and D are true. A is not true, and the only thing that will tell you this, everything is true about it except for that first part, from the 50s onward. The second part is true now. The first part, not true. And sometimes it'll be one word in the answer that is the one that kills the actual answer, okay? So you have to be very careful about that. We're going to see it in IELTS as well. Same paragraph. Here is, you have to give true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given. Since the invention of military satellites, the US government has always been able to conduct reconnaissance missions from space. So everything about this is true. And this is the same thing we looked at in the last one. Has always been able to. Has been, you have a be verb fact, and always fact. So this fact has always been true. But at the beginning, in the 1950s, when around the time these satellites were invented and used, since the invention of military satellites, there was a time in the 50s when the reconnaissance was sporadic and geographically limited. So not always, has not always been. Okay? So that one word in the whole sentence makes the sentence not true. A lot of people might say, yes, true. A lot of people will notice that always and realize it's not true, and they will get the correct score. So, in summary, what you need to do when you get to the reading section of these tests, whenever you see a question, and it's basically a paraphrase, and you see the word always, or you see the word never, or you see the word only, automatically be suspicious and pay extra attention to the reading passage to make sure that it is true or not true about the extreme word. Okay. Now, in writing, and these single words, one word can actually destroy your entire essay. And I've seen many people lose points in the task completion score of their essay because they missed this one word, this one extreme word, okay? And again, remember, the test makers put these words in there on purpose. They're doing it specifically to test your attention, to test your focus, to test your ability to address these words. Do you agree or disagree with the following? The best way to travel is in a group led by a tour guide. So right away, the question is not about, is it good to travel in a group or to go traveling by yourself? That's not the question. The question is the best way. That word best is what the focus of this task is, of this essay. So you can say, yes, it is the best way, and then go on to list your reasons. You can do a little bit of comparison with other ways. Now remember, best means first among many. Better means you're comparing two things. So best, you should give different options as counter to show why this is the best way. If you think that there another way is the best way, say so, and then support that idea. Or say that sometimes in some situations this is the best way, in other situations it's not the best way. So overall, it's not, you can't say that it is the best way to travel. It's just one way for one situation. But at some point in your essay, you have to address that word best. And many people don't, and they lose points for that. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Now, people should read only those books that are about real events, real people, and established facts. Now, before I get into that, I rewrote this question and I took out the word only. People should read books that are about real events, real people, and established facts. What's the difference between these two statements? In the second one, you're saying people should read these types of books. Yeah, okay, they should. They should read these types, they should read these types, they should read all kinds of books about all kinds of things. But in the first one, people should read only those books means that they should not read novels, they should not read fantasy, they should not read theoretical subjects, they should not read sports glory stories that may or may not be true, right? So they should read only these types and ignore everything else. That's what the question is asking you to discuss. You have to mention that, you have to address that word only. If you don't, you lose points. We'll look at a couple more examples. Some people think that they can learn better by themselves than with a teacher. Others think that it is always better to have a teacher. So you probably noticed already the word always. Now, I want to show you different situations that may come up. Depending on the question that's associated with this task will make the idea of the extreme word relevant or not, okay? Which do you prefer? Which do you think is better? So if you get either of these questions, then the question is learning by yourself or with a teacher. That's the question. But because they put the word always, they're not going to ask you that type of question, okay? Because they want you to address that word always. Which view do you agree with? Now, as soon as you said which view or what is your opinion, right away you should understand that you have to address that word always. It is always better to have a teacher. Well, is it? Do you always have to have a teacher? Are there any situations where the teacher is actually not good for you, or the teacher doesn't help you, or you could do it without a teacher, the teacher is irrelevant, etc. So you have to address this word always when you're talking about which view or which opinion, what's your opinion, etc. A couple more examples and we're done, don't worry. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? One should never judge a person by external appearances. So the question is not, should we judge somebody by how they look? That's not the question. The question is, should we never judge? Are there no circumstances where it's okay to do it? That is the question. Are there any circumstances in which it is okay to judge a person by his or her appearance? So for example, what would you talk about in this essay? If I am a human resources department and I'm hiring people for the company and I'm conducting interviews, and a person walks into my office and he's wearing shorts and a tank top and he's got earrings and spiked hair, can I help but judge this person? This person is coming to apply for an office job. This person obviously does not understand the etiquette of working in an office. This person obviously has not put that much effort into appearing professional. Yes, I can judge this person by his or her appearance because this person is not serious. This person is showing me by his or her appearance that he or she is not serious. So that's the question. Not should we do it or not. The question is, should we never do it? Or are there situations when we can? If you don't address that word never in your essay, you're losing points, guaranteed. Okay? Last one. Some people believe that a college or university education should be free for all students. Others believe that higher education should be free only for good students. Discuss these views. Which do you agree with? So now you'll notice all students, only good students. So that is the actual question. It's not about free education or paid education. It's about free for everybody or free for some. And that's what you have to address in your essay to get the task completion score. Okay, so very simple. Pay attention to the extreme words. You don't have to go study any vocabulary. Learn the synonyms, definitely. Look up the dictionary or thesaurus and look for other words that basically mean the same thing and have a nice collection of these so that you can recognize them. But as soon as you see an extreme word in your reading questions or in your writing task, hone in, like a light bulb should go off and you should be paying attention to these words and make sure that you address them, make sure that you look for them in the passage, in the reading, so that you can get the right answer, that you can get a complete essay answer to the question. That's it. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, please go to my YouTube channel. You can ask me in the comment section there or my Facebook page. If you like this video, please give me a like. If you liked it a lot, please subscribe to my channel for more videos about writing, grammar, vocab, test tips, etc. I'll see you again soon.